Welcome to Denver Startup Week. I'm Tammy Dorr, President and CEO of the Downtown Denver Partnership and co-chair of Denver Startup Week. This year marks the 10-year anniversary of Denver Startup Week. DSW has been the catalyst for lots of change over the past decade. And this week, we're coming together to celebrate the past and dream big for the future. We are able to bring Denver Startup Week to this community thanks to our 2021 sponsors. Thank you to our HQ and title sponsor, Amazon, and our title sponsors whose leadership makes this week come to life. Capital One Cafe, Downtown Denver Partnership, Fluid Truck, Hotel Engine, and WeWork. And our track sponsors who have made all of the great content you're hearing today possible, our founder track sponsor, Kickstart, growth track sponsor, Friday Health Plans, developer track sponsor, Quizlet, product track sponsor, Palantir, our designer track sponsor, Battery 621, and the Public Works, people track sponsor, Exactly, and spotlight event sponsor, Strat Labs. Our headline event sponsors are bringing the excitement to the week. Thank you to B-Side Fund, Colorado Public Radio, Comcast, Coors Brewing, Denver Pavilions, Entrepreneurship at the University of Denver, JP Morgan Chase, Method, Moss Adams, Pi Insurance, Promontory Mortgage, Path, Southwest, Tattered Cover, and VF Venture Foundry. Finally, thank you to our partner and member sponsors, all listed on the screen. Please say thank you to these companies as you enjoy our hybrid Denver Startup Week. And don't forget, use the hashtag DenStartupWeek to share your experiences and moments of inspiration on social media. Have a great week.
Hello, I'm Sal Gentili, CEO of Friday Health Plans, and we're proud to sponsor the growth track this year at Denver Startup Week. We're a company that just entered a rapid growth phase, so we felt it was particularly appropriate. When my business partner and I started Friday Health Plans 5 years ago, we knew we wanted to create a company that catered to people who bought their own health insurance. The Affordable Care Act was just getting going, and we saw an opportunity to serve a brand new market of health insurance consumers. Independent consultants, startup groups, gig workers, service industry workers, designers, creators, and other independent professionals, like many of you here today. We knew that if we built a health plan that was simple to buy, easy to use, had great customer service, and most of all was affordable, we could compete against the big insurance plans who only focus on serving big companies. After spending 5 years getting into the Colorado market and completing a successful proof of concept, we successfully closed a $50 million round of growth funding earlier this year. We're now about to expand to 3 additional states later this year, hire more than 400 employees to support our growth, and eventually be in more than 10 states by 2025. I wish each of you good luck in your startup and growth pursuits. And as you think about your upcoming health insurance needs, I hope you consider fellow growing startup Friday Health Plans. Open enrollment starts November 1st. Check us out at fridayhealthplans.com.
Hello everyone, welcome to Denver Startup Week. I'm Jake Cohen, the Growth Track Chair and member of the Denver Startup Week Organizing Committee. Thank you for joining us for the 10th anniversary of Denver Startup Week. At Denver Startup Week, we strive to make all of our sessions a space where attendees can connect, learn, and grow. Regardless of age, gender identity, gender expression, race, ability, or sexual orientation. A special thank you to our sponsors for their support in helping us to keep Denver Startup Week free and accessible for all. Thank you for joining us and have a great week.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Denver Startup Week. I hope you've been having, if you've caught up with some other presentations, I hope you've been enjoying the week. I know it's action-packed. I wish I could be there in person. I did attend a few years ago and I went to many events and I had a really amazing and memorable time. So it's a real honor for me to be here today and to present one of my favorite topics. So thank you to everybody that is here actually joining live on Zoom, and thank you to all of those that are watching the broadcast. So this is a workshop today. It is going to be interactive. So for those that are on Zoom, we will be engaging on the chat, and for those that are not, you're still welcome to participate. So I'm going to ask if you do have a pen and piece of paper to grab it now. And if not, if you want to write on your computer, on one of the notepads there, then that's also a good place. But just have something that to prepare yourself for an activity that we're going to be doing a little bit later. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll get into the presentation today. So just bear with me a moment. Okay. So today's topic is how to transform your company into a visionary movement. So one of my favorite topics, which it does seem like a very big topic. So I am going to give some, sorry, my dog is with me here, just so she doesn't bark. So Namaste is also holding space right now in this talk. So I will be introducing a little bit about myself in the beginning, just so you understand why I'm talking about a visionary movement. And the agenda is I will be giving a presentation, obviously, and then at the end, we'll be doing some exploratory exercises, and there'll be 10 minutes left at the end, ideally, for a Q&A session. And in the presentation, I'll be covering the definition of a visionary in a movement. I'll be defining a company vision, a vision for humanity, and then also providing some tips on how you can hold a vision for humanity. So let's get started. So first of all, I'm going to ask you, for those that are here and can engage in the chat, what brings you here today? So what drew you to this presentation? I'd love to see. And I'm just going to have to downsize the presentation to be able to. So if you just want to share in the chat for those that can. Okay, so what brought you here today? If you can, anyone that wants to write down their answer in the chat. And then I'm also asking, what are your intentions? So what do you want to get out of this presentation today? Okay, so Steve is saying he likes visionary stuff. Thank you, Steve. It sounds like that's also one of your favorite topics. And Paul is saying for help with branding. Okay, that's a very good call. Branding yourself as someone that's a visionary and leading a movement. That makes sense. So we'll just get one more of what brings you here today. Okay, we're a little bit quiet today in the chat room. So what about your intentions? Does anyone want to share what their intentions are, what they want to get out of this workshop and presentation today? So you can just put it in the chat. Okay, so Paula is a visionary that I've been working with for a while. So she's saying she always wants to learn from me. Thank you, Paula. Okay, so one more intention. And obviously you can write this down wherever you are as well. You don't have to put it in the chat. So it's always good to set your intentions before you go into an activity. I always find that helps. So Mendy, growing. Yep, we're in the growth track, so that makes sense. Okay, so thank you everybody for sharing that. So if you're wondering if this is the right presentation for you, then if you're drawn to the word visionary, or you feel that you're a visionary, you're in the right place. If you'd like to learn more about what a visionary is, or a visionary movement, you want to uncover your vision, you would like to contribute to a thriving and united world, or you already are, and you're ready to let go of business as usual and explore what's possible. So if any of those match, then you're definitely in the right place. So I'm going to briefly introduce myself. So my life experience started in the 1980s. I won't reveal what year, but in that decade, in Bondi Beach in Sydney, as you can tell from my accent. I'm originally from Australia. And I completed my degree in marketing, design and communication on the Sunshine Coast. And yes, there were a lot of kangaroos at my university. They were not on the beach. I took this photo somewhere else last year. But yes, it was great to study with kangaroos hopping around outside everywhere. So after I finished my degree, I moved to the UK. I lived in Scotland and London and back to Sydney and then over to Vancouver. And I essentially worked in the corporate world as a marketer and an in-house designer. And yeah, so I worked in the finance industry, government, exploration, and I was just applying the skill set that I learned with my degree. And always feeling like, is there something more that I want to do besides, just being an employee and working for only profit-driven companies? So in 2010, while I was still in Vancouver, I moved into the startup world. I left corporate, moved into the exciting startup world, working in the disruptive technology. So I got into blockchain in the early days and AI, VR, IoT, AR. And, it was really fun. In 2014, I think it was, 2014, 2015, I became a consultant for startups. So I was doing marketing strategy and also leading design, doing UI UX. And then we have here in 2016, and I'll say that this is a heart discovery. So I had an epiphany which really changed my career and the way that I operate in business and life. So I was consulting for a SaaS platform company, and I also did IoT and a bit of VR. And the CEO asked me what the go-to-market strategy was. And being a product marketer primarily, I could have just gone boom, 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 and just answered. And instead, I had this idea come to me. Instead of me just telling you what the go-to marketing strategy is, why don't we ask the company? So it occurred to me that what if the company, the business, has its own personality, its own needs, and its own intelligence that we can actually access? So I started by using heart intelligence, so moving away from strictly logic and being in a heart opening space where you can receive more information, I was able to essentially receive more intelligence than I could have gotten from the logical mind. And that revealed a lot about an organization. So that was really a changing point for me in my career, to be able to access what I'm calling heart intelligence, which is on the next slide here. Sorry, I'm not sure why it keeps doing that. So I started to work with this, what I'm calling the business entity discovery, and really taking a heart-driven approach to all of the work that I was doing. And I really made some amazing discoveries, which I'm about to share with you. So if we look at where we are now, I'm taking a visionary focus to the work that I do. So just to expand a bit more on the heart discovery, when I was living in Boulder in 2018, and I started applying this discovery to my work about communicating with the business entity, I developed a business blueprint, which was essentially a structure and foundation around receiving the information that I needed in order to advise on strategy, stories, doing the copywriting and the storytelling. And what I started to notice was everyone that I was attracting. So I was giving a lot of talks and presentations and doing some courses and around Boulder and Denver. And what I started to notice was all of the mostly founders of startups that were coming to me, a few solopreneurs. What I noticed was everybody that was coming to me, they weren't just leading a business, they were actually leading a movement. So that was a discovery that I made, and a big part of it was the heart intelligence that I was using to actually uncover and identify that they were leading a movement. So an example is a creator of children's bedtime stories. He was actually creating an education system that instills happy and authentic values in children. So he wasn't just an author. So his destiny was changing the structure of the education system to be more connected and more about personal growth for children. Another example is a sustainable e-commerce store. They were not just selling sustainable products, they were actually leading a conscious consumerism movement and also innovating in the circular economy space. And lastly, a financial planner. He wasn't just advising people how to grow their wealth. He was actually aligning the management of their finances with their life purpose and aspirations. So as you can see, I discovered that they weren't just selling a product or a service, they were actually in the back end, they were leading a movement. They were bringing more connection and more expansion and more joy and creating a thriving world. So can you imagine if more people were aware that they were doing that? So if a lot of people are leading businesses right now and really they're leading a movement and they're not aware of that, just imagine what would happen if they gain that awareness. Imagine if you gain that awareness, how would your business change? So that was a really big discovery. And when I realized that, I focused my career, I dedicated myself on diving deeper into the full expression of a visionary and how marketing, leadership, and business needs to be upgraded to support their success, because right now it's not catered towards visionaries. And so today I have the opportunity to present some of my main discoveries on how a visionary can cultivate the mindset and tools that they need to take a movement-based approach to their business. So I'm going to start with defining what a visionary is, which is always the first step. So a visionary is a personal organization who holds a vision of a more thriving and united world, and they offer a pathway or solution to get there. Okay, so it's the vision and also a pathway. So keeping in mind, you don't need to know every single detail to be a visionary. It's very clear. It's a knowing, it's a certainty, it's a vision, it's a feeling that this is the pathway for a certain group or for society. And this is the way that they're going to get there. So a visionary also has a vision for humanity, which is essentially, it involves accessing a higher vision of how society or the planet can evolve. So basically what I just said. So I want to share with you my vision for humanity. So my vision for humanity sees us living in an empowered, thriving, and united world. I believe this shift will be formed by a new wave of visionaries, leading and embodying this change through vision, presence, and emerging business and leadership tools. So that's the vision that I hold, that we are, no matter what, heading towards a more empowered, thriving, and united world. And this is happening right now by visionaries that are leading the change. And they're doing so in a way that doesn't quite follow the business as usual path, which I'll be talking about. So we're here to talk about the movement, right? That's why a lot of us came. So let's define what a movement is. So I believe that a movement reshapes how we coexist as a society. And a movement also, it's here to redefine existing structures and models and ways of thinking, which are obviously not working, which are making us disconnected, at war, not at peace with each other. So that's really the point of a movement, I believe. Here are some aspects. So because a movement is about improving the world, obviously it's, about leading positive change that benefits all. So benefits all is a key word here. So movements take a symbiotic and holistic approach. So they know that whatever they're doing in one place, it affects everything around them. So it's not operating in a silo. Movements take a collective we-based approach, so the good of all, unified solutions for humanity, environment, and the animals. And of course, they challenge status quo. So they challenge what isn't working. Characteristics of movements. So movements are timely, so they happen at the right time. You can't force them, you can't push them, and they often take time. So that means that you need patience. They require a lot of energy to push and shift, like a rebirthing. So it's not a solo venture. You don't lead a movement alone, okay? You're not meant to. You can, I believe co-creation is the way to do it. You can start leading it and then find other people that are also co-leading and then lead it together. Movements often require education because they're new, so people want to know, I'm comfortable in my suffering, or I'm comfortable what's happening now, like how is that going to benefit me? So it does require a lot of education, especially in marketing. And also holding the vision. So you can't really be a visionary unless you're embodying the vision right now, whether it's happening or not. And they require steady, consistent energy. They're collaborative and co-creative. As I said, you don't lead a movement by yourself. So we're going to talk about a company vision and a vision for humanity, a few more details. So this is a traditional company vision approach, okay? So a company vision encapsulates how the company solves a problem for a customer, organization, or group. So it's quite transaction focused. It's like we solve a problem through this product or service, essentially. It's made up of three parts. There's the customer, so who you're actually solving the problem for. There's the problem they have, and then how you solve their problem. So there's three parts: a problem, a customer, and then the company with their product or service. So you would often say, we help X achieve X through our product or service. So when we say we, this is really referring to the company. So there's not much, you're not really looking outside of that. Like it's very product, service, company, here's us and then everybody else is out there. Focus, and I'm just saying traditionally, so obviously things are a little bit different in B Corp movements and conscious capitalism and more progressive models like that. But this is just traditionally, it's a bit more of a siloed approach. So what are the limitations of taking this approach? As I said, the we exclusively refers to the company rather than the good of all. And a really big thing here is when you take a company vision approach, there's product attachment. You can also say service attachment. So the leader becomes so attached to their products or services, they lose sight of their overall mission. And a good example of this is when I did my blueprint for a company, I did my blueprint for a company in Boulder, and she had a SaaS platform that she invested a lot of money in. And so she came to me about that. And when I discovered that she was leading a movement, which was in a different area, and the SaaS platform was not actually meant to be her focus, and she was having a lot of problems with partners and money, when I identified a new pathway for her, which was actually more vision orientated, she couldn't handle it because it's like, oh, I've spent all this money and I'm attached to this product. And So it was actually detrimental, that attachment, rather than just knowing that that was the pathway then and it's time to move on to something bigger. And the limitations are also, sorry, I keep clicking on that, are also taking a narrowed focus. So problem solution is very right now, okay? So it stops you from seeing a bigger picture. It also deters collaboration. So company vision is very, we're here, there's our competitors. If you look at all the space travel people, just imagine if they worked together instead of spending billions of dollars developing their own electric cars or space travel. Imagine if they were part of a movement and they put all their resources together, and it wasn't about ego and who's leading the company and who's better, and it was just really about the movement. Like, the whole world would be different if we didn't have competition. And again, so it's traditionally separation based. It's us as a company, and then everyone outside of us is them. Okay, so now we look at the vision for humanity, different approach here. So a vision for humanity involves accessing a higher vision of how society or the planet can evolve. The company we transforms into a unified we that includes all. Okay, so it's not, the separation disappears and there's more of this expanded connection. The vision involves three parts that exist in a more future state. So a group of people, animals, or nature that you're serving, a future state of how they're going to live or experience, and then a process or pathway to get there. So in other words, we see X experiencing X through X, which is the pathway. So you're focusing on a particular group, you're seeing how they're going to be, which is a more united and thriving way than they are now. And then there's a vehicle or some kind of pathway for them to get there. So what happens when you lead with a vision for humanity and you're not attached to a product or a business vision? Then your energy is more expansive. You can hold a higher vision for humanity and allow the natural flow to take place, okay? Because you're not trying to force. And it's almost like, if you imagine water going down a river, there's rocks, but the water's always moving. So it's almost like taking strictly a company vision, you're kind of blocking the water from flowing and trying to control it. So there's also more room to co-create and partner with others aligned to your cause, rather than working in silos and competing with each other, because you have the same vision and movement. So why not work together? It's not about ego. It's not about who gets there first. You attract customers who resonate and buy with your vision, not just your company or not just a story that is often heard in many places, the same similar story. And you give them a platform to participate and contribute to their vision, to this vision. So they believe in it and they're like, great, now I can contribute to making this possible because this company and this movement exists. It's amazing. You're doing them a service. Your marketing transforms into cause marketing. And while products and services come and go, you remain centered in your vision. It's very important. Products and services are meant to come and go. They're meant to evolve. They're not meant to be finite. So it's a big difference here. So some key tips of leading with a vision for humanity is to lead with service. So transforming the ego. So the ego is I, me, into the we go. So you're considering all instead of being self-focused, which is how we're, trained to be in society. You embrace heart intelligence. So what I was talking about before, where I realized that the business entity has its own intelligence, and through opening my heart and meditation and using my own intuition, I was able to access this. So you also can tap into this divine intelligence that is not accessible strictly through the logic of the mind. So you allow product, services, partnerships, staff, customers, and the world to align around you. You become a magnet, okay? You're not forcing and pushing and hustling, and it's a complete opposite. You get to follow your highest passion and calling, which is really fulfilling. So rather than creating products or services strictly for revenue, you allow the vehicles that generate revenue to form around you. And that's happened to me a lot, you know, where when I stop being a marketer and going, well, this is what makes more sense and this is the most profitable, and I just say, how can I serve visionaries in the best way possible? Then the next product or service is revealed. And that's what I'm going to launch in a few weeks. It's a mentorship program. So if you just allow and tune into how can I best serve, then the right products and services will be there that will make you probably more money than if you forced it just for revenue. You have to be comfortable in the unknown. So not knowing all the answers, not knowing every step, just knowing what you need to do now. And staying trusting and patient that your vision will be realized in the right time. You can't force it. Maybe it won't be realized in your lifetime, and you have to be okay with that. You know, you're laying the foundation, or maybe it will be in a few years. So it's about letting go of attachment of when the vision comes to life. And that's a lot about letting go of the ego as well. So I'm going to share with you, before we get into the activities, I spoke before about really how when I realized that I was attracting people that were leading movements and not just businesses, I really started to spend the next few years studying what these visionaries that were leading movements, patterns, so different patterns with their marketing, with their belief systems. I just started to identify that there's a progressive or a developmental journey that visionaries actually go on, and me being, you know, one myself. And I started to see it everywhere, that people were having the same challenges, they were having the same flow when they were at different stages of being a visionary. So it was recommended to me by a visionary, quite an advanced visionary, that there's the hero's journey, why don't you lay out the visionary's journey? And I thought, great, isn't that an amazing way to just track and note into one place all of these observations that I'm seeing about the different steps of being a visionary, where you get stuck and how you can actually move past it. And I realized after doing that quite a fundamental way of progressing in leading your movement and vision is by identifying where you are now, first of all, and then having a glimpse of where you're going. So just those two things, this is where I am now, that's why this is happening, and oh, now I see these are the next stages. It really helps you move more rapidly through your visionary's journey. So I'm going to share that with you now. So this is the visionary's journey on the left, which I'll go through in a second. And the visionary's journey, it's a leadership framework, an emerging leadership framework, and it serves as a map to creating a thriving and united world by laying out the pathway and elements required for personal and collective evolution to take place. So in order to contribute to collective evolution, you need to focus on your own personal evolution. So there's no getting around that, especially when one of the keys to your vision being received by more people in the world is by you embodying it. That's essential. So for you to embody it, you need to go through your own personal evolution. So that's really what this journey is. It's a mixture of personal development, spiritual development, business development, emerging business and leadership tools. So if we look at the bottom here, potential, we have the burden and the gift. So in this expression, so there's 4 expressions: potential, emerging, revolving, remastering, and then they got different stages included. So the gift is where you're born with the blueprint or the map of being a visionary. You may be aware of it or not aware of it. It doesn't matter. If you're aware of it, you probably questioned things, why things work, and noticed how a lot of things didn't really make sense when you were younger or throughout your life. You may have had a lot of solutions, just have been naturally solution focused. They're signs, you know, of having a gift. If you didn't follow your visionary pathway, which is often the case, especially for me, because there wasn't a pathway, there wasn't support to do that, then you may be going into work or kind of moving from one thing to the next. And then it feels like a burden because you know that you're here to co-lead change. And when you're not doing it and you feel out of alignment, there's this frustration and this confusion. If you weren't aware of it, you could have just been happy in a certain career. And then when you realize that you're here to do something big, which is the calling, then the burden can come then. And you can say, oh shit, I need to change, but I don't know how. And there's no support. And then you can feel that heaviness. So I'm going to talk about the calling. So this is really where you identify that you're a visionary. Yes, I'm here to contribute to a thriving and united world. I'm here to co-lead positive change. How the hell do I do it? What change am I here to lead? What are my gifts? That's the calling. Okay, so I've highlighted some of the things that I really experienced myself. So your internal reality is you accept that you're a leader and a visionary. That's the first step, obviously. You're probably feeling unfulfilled because you're not doing it, which is fine. That's part of the process. And you're ready to explore what it looks like. So the calling is really about exploration. And yeah, it can be uncomfortable because you don't know. So there's this frustration of not knowing. There's probably a lack of confidence, even doubting, am I really a visionary? So that's the internal reality. External reality, again, it's about putting things out there, presenting ideas and visions, seeing what the reaction is, like learning from other visionaries or just learning what your modality is. There's often an expansion and contraction. So, oh, I think this is what I want to do. I'm going to put this out there into the world. And then you're kind of not sure. So you go back in and then you're like, oh, what about this? Oh, no, I'm going to go back in. So it's kind of a opening and closing. The business and career. So because you're still exploring, you're probably, maybe not around the right group of people, and it may seem quite different what you're doing and, not acceptable. Yeah, so there's a lot of exploration and uncovering and, a little bit of push and pull going on during the calling stage. The commitment stage, which is still in the emerging part, is where you have an idea of what offering or focus or an idea of your vision, and you've already tested it a little bit. So now you're a bit more confident, you're prioritizing it, and you've accepted that this has to be my path. Like, I'm not going to choose other things, whether it's money or prestige or, whatever it is to be operating in a misaligned way. So that's really what the word commitment means. There's obviously still the fear of unknown. You're still exploring, you're still building your confidence. You're presenting your ideas to the world again, in case you did and then you retracted, you're now going out there again. You may be combining your existing career with whatever this vision is. There's still a bit of frustration because you're not fully out there, but you're definitely more committed and more clear than you were when you first realize that you're a visionary in the previous stage. So yeah, it's a continued process of gaining clarity. There's a bit of impatience. Why aren't I there yet? Why don't I know yet? Why aren't I making all the money yet? So you'll get over that, but that's what happens in the emerging stage. And then we move into stages 5 and 6. We come out of emerging and we go into re-evolving. So this is where you already have something out there. So in my case, I had my business entity blueprint. So I was doing a marketing strategy workshop, and I was using heart intelligence. So that was something that was, coming through me. So that was already out there. And then you're evolving even more. You're going deeper. It's like, how else can my vision expand? How are my offerings meant to grow? And there's more flow because you've got more confidence. You've tested it out. You've got proof of concept. There's some adoption of your work. And Yeah, so that's stage 5, experiencing more flow. You're aware of your gifts more. So I was using intuition more because that's one of my primary gifts. Well, it's really everybody's, but that was the path that I needed to follow more. And then stage 6 is really when you're going more into your personal and spiritual development. So you're expanding more into your full capacity and moving towards more being a sovereign being rather than being caught up in a lot of the ego or ego competition and proving, and you know, that all that pressure drops away, having to prove, and you can really just be in the glow of being a visionary, you know, and just move and lead from a heart-centered space. It's a really beautiful place to be in. There's all of that noise and that pressure just mutes, and it allows you to really step further into your offering. So there are stages 7 to 10, which are called remastering. So if you are interested in learning more about the Visionary's journey, you can go to the website there. So thank you for letting me share that with you. Just one other quick thing is this is what a movement can actually look like, or this is the pathway that a movement can go down. So people I work with are either individuals that are leading a movement from an individual perspective, or we should say more of a vision. And then there's an organization, and then there's systems level change, which is really fun. I love working with all of them. So let's take the individual. You have an idea, turns into a vision that turns into an innovative service or product. It becomes a model or framework. I just showed you my framework. It turns into a course, a curriculum, which is a body of work, a school, you know, like a university, an online platform, and in-person education. And then the framework becomes instilled into society. So that's just an example of how visions can progress. And then we've got the organizational there, how the frameworks reach a micro level and then they go out to more places in the world and internationally, and then they're integrated into a societal system or policy. Okay, so thanks for listening to me doing all of that talking. We're going to do an exercise now. So if you can get your notepad ready, whether it's digital or in front of you, just bring it there. We're going to do an exercise on forming your vision. And this is for people that have their vision. How can you re-evolve it, as I was talking about? And then for the emerging visionaries, how can you get more clear on what your vision is? So before we go into the exercise, I'm just going to give you some pointers or some insights around your vision. So a vision needs to come naturally, not be forced. Okay, so we're not sitting here going, I need to work out my vision now. Often, you know, when you allow space, it can come to you. Some visions have come to me when I go cycling. That's one of my things. Cycling for a couple of hours and just getting all of these downloads coming in because I'm in a relaxed and open space. Your vision aligns to your life purpose and natural gifts. So a good way to work out your vision is to get clear on what your natural gifts are. You'll naturally be drawn to the vision or movement. You don't force it. You don't have someone convince you. Embodiment is key. So your vision can't come to life unless you embody it right now. And your vision or pieces of it will naturally evolve and expand as you do. So here's the exercise. So I want you to take a heart-centered approach. So just take a deep breath. Take another deep breath, close your eyes. And one more deep breath. Place your right hand on your heart. Feel the energy of your heart and your breath. And I want you to open your eyes gently and pick A, if you're an emerging visionary. B, if you're a re-evolving visionary, keep your hands on your heart if you can, or get your paper ready and then put your hands on your heart. And then just the first thing that comes out, I'm passionate about, just write it down. What I'd like to see looks like, just write it down. So I'll give you a few minutes to do that. Okay, so we'll have 3 minutes. So just staying connected to your heart. You don't have to answer all of them. You can pick 3. Sorry, I should have said in the beginning, you can pick your top 3. And keep in mind that when you're answering from the heart, it's instant. Okay, the mind doesn't come in and get involved. It's just boom, 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 boom. The first thing that comes to you. We're not overthinking, we're allowing the answers to come through. Okay, so I'll give you another minute just so we can do another exercise before questions. So I'm just starting to finish off, and I also encourage you to take a screenshot or quickly write down the other ones just so you can do this at a later time. Okay, and if you want to share in the chat how that experience was, if you've got any good insights, then you can do that, and I'll move on to the next slide. You can still share it in the chat. And our second exercise is on embracing presence. So presence can happen through trading hustle for flow, by spending time in nature, becoming part of nature. So presence is a key. Presence is important to embody in order for you to lead a vision. So that's why this slide is here. It allows you to listen to your heart, follow your highest joy and passion. You can practice being rather than doing when you're present. So our next exercise that we're going to do here nice and quickly, because again, it's coming from the heart. I want you to write down 3 activities you can do every day to embody more presence. And yes, that's every day. So you could pick something quick. What can you do every day to be more present, to be in the flow, to be still, to slow down the mind, to be in your heart? What brings you into that state? Here's some examples. You can set a timer and do a 1-minute breathing exercise, or get an app, a meditation or breathing app. You can say, all right, if you don't have a dishwasher, then you can say, all right, when I wash the dishes, I'm going to be present. You can schedule to turn your cell phone or disable Slack or whatever you're working in for half an hour. So just write down 3 ways that you can embody more presence every day. You can walk part of the way to work if you're not working from home. If you're working from home, take the dog for a walk. If you don't have a dog, pretend you have a dog. That's what I do when I'm on holiday. I still go on dog walks without the dog. Okay, so if you've got those 3 activities that just come to you as the first thing, then you can share some of them in the chat. And the next one is really invoking your highest joy and passion. So think of what brings you joy and write down 3 ways that you can incorporate them into your life each week. Maybe you want to spend time listening to a certain genre of music because it allows you to be present and relaxed. Sound is the quickest way to shift your energy and thoughts. Lots of short meditations is coming through in the chat here. That's a good idea. It's like keeping the battery charged throughout the day and topped up. Hiking is in Boulder. I did that a lot. It was pretty amazing in Denver. So that's a really good, if that brings you joy and allows you to be present. Painting, I've got playing soccer. I'm not sure why. I'm sure I don't play soccer, but I'm sure that brings a lot of people joy and passion. So write down 3 ways you can follow your highest joy and passion. Cycling with no destination in mind. I love that, Mendy. That's really cool. Now, before we get to Q&A, I want you, watching and listening to the ocean. That's another beautiful way to be present. Thank you, Craig. Now, I want you to get out your calendar, Google Calendar, Outlook, or even paper calendar, and I want you to book in a 30-minute slot in the next week where you can just be. You're not reading, you're not watching TV, you're not talking, you're not doing anything. You can just, you can be outside, you can look at the flowers, just be present and breathe. So find a time in your calendar where you can do that. You could just put Monday 5 p.m. to 5:30, Saturday 9:30 to 10, whatever it is, just write it down and commit to it. Okay, now we're gonna move on from these just so we can spend the last few minutes with a Q&A. Actually, before we do that, I do have some resources here if you want to go further into your visionary journey. So the visionary's journey that I showed you, you can do a quiz and that will tell you what stage you're at. So whether you're in stage 3, 4, 5, 6, it's a really fun and quick way to go, oh, okay, so I'm an emerging visionary in this stage. So there's the link to the quiz. You can also go on the Visionary's Journey website and the quiz will be up the top. And then I'm also inviting you, if you want to learn more about the Visionary's Journey after you've identified what stage you're in through the quiz, then I'm holding a free workshop next week at 3 p.m. Mountain Time, obviously 2 p.m. Pacific Time. And that's the next day in Australia. And it's just an opportunity to learn more about the Visionary's Journey and a Q&A session. So there'll be less talking from me and a lot more questions and talking from you. So that's a free event. Just go to my website, events, register. I'd love to see you there. And I also have Visionary Sessions, which is a series of events that I did last year that were talking about emerging models and insights. So there's a lot of recordings there, a lot of amazing visionaries that were speaking about their journey and how to lead with vision. So you can go there. And here's my contact details. So I'd love to stay connected with you. So in the chat, I would love to get some questions or any comments. We do have 6 minutes left. So sorry, it's not the full 10 minutes. But yeah, just put the questions in the chat. I'd love to hear from you, how that landed. If you have any questions about your visionary journey, leading a movement, I welcome them. And I also thank everybody that has been here for the whole presentation so far. I appreciate the comments that you put in the chat as well. That's a lot of inspiration for other people of how to be present. So yeah, do we have any questions from those that are in the Zoom room that can access the chat? So sorry, I'm just gonna make that small. Okay, any questions or comments? Otherwise I can lead. Oh, okay, so, okay, yeah, it's easy to get excited, but funding can be an issue, timing. Yeah, I mean, obviously the business part and, making important strategic decisions is part of it. I always like to say, make them from a place of expansion and from really staying focused on your vision rather than making them from a place of fear, because that's when you engage investors and partners that are not in alignment, and then that actually dims down and blocks your vision from being fully realized. So sometimes you have to say no to certain investors that are not in alignment and just trust and wait that the right ones are going to come. So I hope that answers the question. Usually how long of the journey? I'm not sure exactly what that means, Paul. If that means, I mean, the visionary's journey, you can be at different stages for a number of years. You can be in some stages for months. So what I forgot to mention was when I created the visionary's journey, and I'm just going to stop sharing there. So when I created the visionary's journey, I created it from my own experience. I tapped into heart intelligence, and then I also did a lot of beta testing. So some people were in, for example, stage, we'll say the calling, when they knew that they were visionary. Some people were in that for maybe 3 years. Some people were in it for 3 months. And then the commitment could have been like 10 years or so. It varies with everybody. So Craig has asked, do you have any suggested team activities for a startup that can be done virtually? I always say, get them involved in the vision, like make the vision of your company really clear. And I like to do exercises where you can identify what the purpose and the gifts are of your employees, and then see how that aligns with your company vision. So they can see that they're in alignment and that they're in alignment with their purpose by working for your company. And the only way that they're going to know that is knowing what their purpose and their gifts are, A, and then B, knowing what the vision is, and then they can see if it's the right match. So once you have formed your vision, then that's what I say is the next step. Communicate it with everybody else, and then allow them to see how your vision is actually a pathway that they can express their life purpose in. So I hope that that answered your question. Yeah, great. So I want to thank everybody for listening, whether you were able to participate in the chat, and for those watching the live recording, and for those that are going to watch it afterwards. I invite you to get in touch with, you've got my email, kelly@kellyweist.com, and checking out the Visionaries Journey. I'd love to see you for the free exploration session next week, can learn a little bit more. And I wish you all the best in your achievement of transforming your company vision into leading a movement and a vision for a more thriving humanity. So thank you.